Yes.
Yeah.
Time goes by, doesn't it? So we'll call the meeting to order. We do have some new members and one potential member that I'll introduce. Hannah Ellis is with us today. She is a student at Oak Harbor High School. Is that right? Homeschool. Oh, okay. And a member of the youth sailing group. So she's interested in boating and so forth, and she's here kind of checking us out. So try to be on your best behavior, all that sort of thing. And she also may have to leave, as Gabe may have to leave as well because of sailing, right? That makes sense.
Yeah, we've got our first middle school practice today, so we're gonna jet at 3:45, get down there and help the kids out.
Sure. It's my pleasure to introduce some new members. Joshua Ray is on the end down here, and Evan Kastenbaum. Is that close?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Louis Foster. So we had two empty positions because one of our members got a job, actually, which is a bad idea, I can tell you. But anyway, so he was unable to continue on, and so we have, and then we've expanded the commission to 2 additional members, and that's why these gentlemen are here today. So, and I appreciate, Rick, you being here today as well. Do we have any other guests or anything? Okay. Byron Scooby is not here today. He's on an excused absence. He's out looking at the solar system, apparently. So, but he's normally here. But he asked to be excused in an email that he sent on the 26th, I think. So we'll honor that request. Now, as far as our new members are concerned, I'd like to ask you to take just a second to tell why you're interested in boating. So, Louis?
My name's Louis Foster. Hello, everyone. Avid sailor, been sailing for about 12, 15 years. I lost track after a while, and moved to Oak Harbor a couple years ago and kind of joined the sailing fleet here. Now I'm a boat owner. I don't want to own a boat if I don't have to, and I got friends with them. But spent a lot of time at the Marina and down in that area of town, and thought this would be an interesting way to express that.
Okay, thank you. Evan?
Hey, similar to Louis, I moved to Oak Harbor a few years ago, and I have 3 daughters, the oldest of which is on the sailing team under Gabe's tutelage, and my father-in-law is also an avid sailor, and I'm interested in helping the community thrive.
Very good. And Joshua?
Yeah, Josh Ray. I also moved to Oak Harbor a few years ago. Been sailing for a little while, just got our own boat 2 years ago. My kids complain, why didn't we get a motorboat instead of a slow sailboat? So I'm trying to help them learn to love the sport, but similar thing. I love being down there and want to do whatever we can to make sure that the harbor stays around and serves our needs.
Thank you very much, and welcome to all of you new folks and the older folks too. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you.
And
I'm
you
happy
too,
to
yeah.
be here.
Next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Everybody got a copy in their packets, if you had a chance to review those.
Yeah, I
Any
move that we
corrections or additions?
accept the minutes as submitted. They look fine.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes as submitted,
I'll second that.
and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same sign. All righty, moving right along.
We have public here.
Yeah. Now, this is the moment in our agenda where we offer an opportunity to the general public to comment if they wish to. Did we receive anything electronically?
No, we have not received any public comments.
Okay. Any member of the public wish to comment on any item, whether it's on the agenda or not? Okay, I accept your enthusiasm there. Thank you. That's all I have to say about public comment. And then, under discussion items, we have a couple of items. The Marina financial update. Now, this is an informational presentation based on the data that we have available. The finance office apparently hasn't closed their books for 2023 as yet. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. This is just meant to be an informational update regarding 2023, where it's at right now, and also 2024, where it's at as well. I'd like to introduce you to Ashley Ramos. She is new to the
Hi,
city of
Ashley.
Oak Harbor, and she is working in the finance department as a finance supervisor. So she's going to help us out with some answers, and I'll try and answer all the answers first, and then she can dig me out if I get in trouble. So.
Okay, I had, just as a way of introduction, which pages are we referring to on the agenda bill?
It starts on page 10. That's the agenda bill,
Okay.
is on page 10. And if you'd like, I can walk you through the agenda bill because it gives a little more information as to what happened with the finances in 23 and 24 thus far.
Okay, and you don't mind if we stop you and ask you a question or two?
No, sir, not at all. That's why I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so in 23, it was kind of a messy year financially. We had the launch ramp repaired. We had some pile hoops put on the FDOT breakwater. We had some reclassification of some monies into different buckets. Some of the things that we worked on that were not budgeted for, we had like the launch ramp float that I mentioned. We had the installation of the new fuel line, which just happened to be underneath the launch ramp cement. We had some Mariners Haven due diligence, and then we had some debt write-off. And the debt write-off were accounts that had gone to collection and had gone beyond the amount of time that they could be there, so they could no longer be collected on. So we took those off the books as well. And while you look at this different type of layout than you're accustomed to seeing, what we tried to do was separate the business expenses and revenue from the behind-the-scenes expenses and revenue. And what I mean by that is we focused on account 410. There's a couple other accounts, one for capital improvements, there's another account for reserves. So a lot of money got moved around and it got a bit confusing at times. So we tried to make it a little differently. And if you look at the spreadsheets that are attached, you'll see that there's a top section that gives you a summary of everything that happened. And then down below is a section called adjustments. And in that section, it outlines the strange or weird things that happened with the account during 23 and 24 so far, mostly in 23 though. Some of the things that we saw that happened is we received payouts from insurance companies in previous years, but we paid for them out of this year, or we haven't received them yet, or stuff like that. So 23 is not done by any stretch of the imagination and won't be closed until the end of May. But this will just give you a snapshot. I know that the MAC's been anxious to see where we've been in 23 and where we're going in 24. So that's why the spreadsheet's a little bit different.
What was the net effect of the insurance claims versus actually received?
So if you look at the revenue bucket at the first, let me get to it real quick. My screen's bouncing all over. Some of the stuff that you're seeing, like this $902,000, part of that is insurance claims and reimbursements.
Which account
Where
are
are
you
you, Chris?
referring to?
I'm on page 11.
So you're in the revenue side?
I'm in the
and-
revenue side, and see where it says adjustment insurance incurred, and then above that, remove transfers, intrafund, that sort
Down
of
at the
stuff.
bottom of those items?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that's why it's hard to do this at this time, but we wanted to give you that snapshot because there are still some things going on behind the scenes.
Chris,
Go
I
ahead.
have a brief question. The repairs to the launch ramp float, wasn't that almost solely an insurance claim because of the guy who tied up to the boat ramp?
Yes, that's true. However, when we had it out and we were looking at it, there were many things that were broken with it, many pieces of wood that dried out during that whole period. So we ended up putting roughly $100,000 into that, in new weldments, new fasteners, new lumber, and new snubber brackets and snubbers and floats. So when we had it out, we were able to assess what was going on with it. And in a roundabout way, it was good that that happened because we were able to rebuild a lot of it that we couldn't see while it was in the water. So we did put some money into that.
Yeah, I don't know. I went down, took a look at the condition of those floats, and I was appalled, quite frankly, before you did the improvements and so forth. It was definitely in need of some attention.
Yeah, so we decided to do that and we moved forward with that project.
Okay, so ultimately, we'll be able to get a picture of the net effect of the insurance claims that we've received or are receiving?
Yeah, we can get that split out by year and then by project, hopefully, as well. That would be a separate memo that we would write up, because no matter how we do it in this program, it's going to look a little funky, so.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission?
Chris, I did see that total permanent mortgage revenue was down in 2023 as compared to 2022. And we did have, how many months of the rate increase in 2023? Is our occupancy lower? Was our occupancy lower for 2023 than 2022? It shouldn't have been.
No, it shouldn't have been any lower. I think that let me go back up there.
Because that's significant. It's almost $50,000.
Yeah. I think that there was a real anomaly to what happened at the marina. I think that, as we recall, that Mariner's Cove was dredged, and most of their boats came to us at that time frame. And then so that was a lot of boats that came to the marina. That filled up the marina basically. And then the subsequent, or the next year was just a normal year, and we didn't have that revenue, is what the difference is there.
How were those folks priced during that time? Were they transient boaters?
No,
essentially?
they were there for 3-4 months at least. I don't remember the exact time frame. One of the things that also happened in 23, which was fascinating, you know, the marina relies on the crabbing season heavily in the summer. And as you might recall, last year crabbing was horrible. So there were many boats that usually stay, you know, the whole summer with us, those crabbing months, that instead only stayed a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks and pulled out. Then when crabbing got better, you know, towards Labor Day, towards the end of the season, not many of them came back for any duration of time. So
Did that affect
there were some
the,
strange things with
So that would have
mortgage.
affected fuel sales as well, then?
That would affect fuel sales. Most of those boats are smaller gas outboards or small inboards. But yeah, that has an effect on that as well.
Chris, is this a good time to talk about the Mariners Haven due diligence charge off, or do we want to do that at a later time?
Let's do that during the comments. I know that there is an attachment to the packet written by Mr. Scooby that has some comments about that. but we can go in that direction, definitely.
Yeah, we didn't get that fully distributed to all the members of the commission, so.
I'm sorry about that. Despite our efforts to send the packet out twice because we found an error in it, yeah, it's a bummer.
Any other comments about the financial end of things?
I guess maybe one more question. Chris, are we seeing the benefits or are we reaping any of the benefits of the rate increase so far in 2024? What's our average monthly permanent mortgage up to?
So it's a little too early to tell. You know, we'll know when the summer and the spring really goes into effect. I feel like from what I'm seeing that it is having a good effect financially for us. Really, there hasn't been a number of boats that have left, one or two that I can think of because of the rate. For the most part, people have stayed where they're at. So I would anticipate that we're going to see an increase over last year, this year, when all's said and done. As far as what the average mortgage is, I don't have the average, but I can tell you in April, the mortgage was $65,244.
What was it in March?
I don't have that number in front of me, I'm sorry.
I had all that at home.
How does that number tie back to the spreadsheet revenue for permanent mortgage? You know, there's a total of there, I don't know, it's a real tiny print, but it's, you know, like 136,000 or something. That's for,
First 3 months?
is that for 3 months or 2 months?
That would be for January, February, and March, and yeah, just January, February, and March. So that ties.
What I was trying to get to was the current mortgage revenue is about 65,000, and it doesn't fit a multiple of that number.
No, I just got word that it was for 2 months. I'm sorry.
Just 2 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Ashley.
We'll just ask Ashley.
Yeah, ask that end of the table those questions. No, if that's all the questions, there'll be more to follow. I anticipate a full-blown 23 recap in September. It's not likely that we're going to meet in June and July, right? So maybe we'll meet in August.
Just for the sake of analysis, I guess, are we going to get it before then so that we can spend some time with it?
Yes, we can do that. We can make that available.
When is that anticipated, that the books will close for 2023? You know, this is April of 2024, folks.
Hi, sorry, it's my first time ever using one of these. So we have to report our 2023 financials to the state auditor's office by May 31st. So we're doing a lot of journal entries and reconciliations and cleanup right now.
Okay.
But I anticipate we should be able to have something like that by June.
Okay,
At the latest,
great.
I would say.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Chris, these numbers are really great. And there's a lot here. I'm looking at the administrator's report where it's like the month laid out. I think what could be useful, and I think what we're trying to get at, is a chart with a graph showing like an overlay of year over year. So we could see revenue-wise and maybe how full we are. That would be interesting to be able to compare quickly without numbers necessarily, but like a chart.
I think that's a great idea, and that's actually something that Stephanie puts together the first of each month. We just don't include it in the packet because it would be huge, but we certainly could. We could do that when we do the full-blown one. In the meantime, I would encourage you and welcome you to come to my office, and we could show you that information, definitely.
Sure.
Okay, the big number, of course, is the down about 3/4 of the way down the page, is about $1.3 million and change in the reserves, accumulated reserves. Now, that is being tapped right now by some of these other events, right?
Yes, we can anticipate that to drop over the next few months. So we just finished the feasibility study for the dredging and also engaged in a contract with Moffett Nichols for redevelopment. All sum, that totaled roughly $300,000. $150,000 of that was in the ARPA funds, $150,000 from the Marina funds. Moving forward, just a few weeks ago, Council approved a new contract with Moffett Nichols moving into the permitting and planning stage of the dredging project in the neighborhood of $350,000. It's not clear to me that that's come out of our reserves yet. Coupled with that, and the next thing on the agenda is the electrical repair, and that's going to be approximately $70,000, $80,000, somewhere in there, just depending upon what we do with parts and stuff like that. So the answer to your question is yes, there will be a drop. The thing that we have to really watch is that we need to keep our reserves above $560,000. That's the magic number. So as we get closer and closer to that, the more nervous I'll be.
What's the genesis of that number? Where does it come from?
I remember that the finance director, Dave Goldman, told me that. I don't know if it's a WCIA thing or what the reasoning is or what the exact rule is,
Okay,
but it has to be
But you can get us an
560.
answer to that?
I can get you an answer to that,
Okay.
yeah. I don't recall what that was.
That's fine, yeah.
Chris, is there any plans for the city to pick up any of this? Maybe Barbara might be willing to answer that, but there,
Or Brian.
I mean, you know, we're hearing, you know, that there's a sentiment among the council that they have to help with the marina, and dredging is certainly something that we would hope that the city finds a way to help with. You know, we keep talking about depleting our $1.3 million reserves down to effectively nothing, because the electrical repair is not going to be inexpensive. The Moffett Nichols contract is not going to be inexpensive. You know, we're talking probably $800,000, maybe a little less by the time we're finished with that. And, you know, we now have civilian members, non-members on this committee that were placed on this commission because the city was going to become more involved with the marina, and the proof is in the pudding. You know, this is a lot of money going out for something that has to be done, and you would hope that there would be a way that the city could find a way to help with some of this. Fair or not fair?
I think that your statements are fair, Mr. Jones. I think that as we work through this, we can likely see some more city council engagement. I can tell you that one of the neat things about the way this is structured is we are going to pay down the debt. The current dredging bond is going to be expired, and that's going to be about $360,000 a year. So as we draw it down, we're going to draw it up real fast.
And that's only, what, a year and a half? 2
Yeah,
years?
yeah.
Year and a half.
Coupled with the fact that we are now paying for the most expensive part of the dredging planning piece. The planning and permitting expected to take 2 to 3 years. It's also the most expensive piece. The next piece, which is a little bit more planning, and then the last piece, construction services, are likely to be a fraction of this cost unless something comes up in the planning and permitting phase that's unexpectedly. As we look at what the city's involved in here, we have heard talk of that as well. But I can't tell you that's going to happen today, tomorrow, or the next day. It's something that we're encouraging. I can tell you that the city is active behind the scenes in working on the dredging project. Much of the Washington, D.C. trip, probably 80–90% of it was spent on marina stuff. So that's exciting, meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers, meeting with our lobbyists, getting some direction from some of these governmental officials that we usually don't have access to. So that was really good and exciting. So there are some things happening behind the scenes.
Barbara, were you interested in commenting?
Yeah, the council is going to meet on a unscheduled meeting on Wednesday at 2:00. And from the agenda, it looks like that's going to be partly covered. There's a lot of on our list that we wanted, and Marina's in there with a lot of things that I haven't even seen before. So I think hopefully that will be brought up and we'll have a deeper understanding of where we're going with all that. And I'll remind them that we need money.
But also, there has to be an ask. I mean, the city council isn't just going to say, here, take a pot of money. There has to be an ask, and maybe the ask comes from Chris, or comes from Brian, comes from this committee, or commission. You know, we have to say, will you pick up the tab for the preliminary, for the permits and on that stuff?
I think, Brian, wouldn't it come from you about the ask?
Yeah,
If we-
we're looking at where a funding mechanism might exist to make that ask. Our finance director, David Goldman, is thinking very creatively on not just a one-time thing, but a renewable, ongoing funding source, whether that's to cover the debt service for the dredging project or whatever that looks like. I think it's easier for the city to do a one-time capital project and not violate, the restrictions with an enterprise fund. But I really am interested in a ongoing funding mechanism that would continually year after year pour in some revenue into the marina as well. So once we have that nailed down, there will be an ask to council, yeah.
This commission has raised the issue several times that, and publicly and privately, I suppose, that we're entering into a situation where we're talking about the expense of just the engineering and permitting process being, close to $500,000. And there's no guarantee that the project can be built. It's reliant on the permit process and, which way the wind's blowing at the time and so forth. So personally, I'm very uneasy with the fact that we're in the throes of designing something that we can't afford.
I think that the plan is to utilize the retired bond funds as well as something new coming down the pipe. I don't know exactly what that looks like at this time, but I'm feeling very, very comfortable with the dredging effort, at least.
Well, I'll just remind the senior members of this group that, and the new members, inform the new members that we are seeking grant funding at various levels and so forth. The big bucks, we all know, come from the federal side rather than state or local. But it's getting increasingly uncomfortable for me to sit here and say, yeah, let's keep doing all this planning, which is, by the way, maintenance dredging. This is something we've done every 10 years. But you have to go back and rewrite the book, apparently, as far as permits and the entire process and engineering and so forth. And there's some very good, valid reasons for doing that. Except, in my mind, when you get to the permit process, it ought to be a rubber stamp of some sort that says, yeah, you checked all the boxes and so forth. So, yeah, go for it, just like you did 10 years ago, But I understand that it doesn't operate that way, but I'm expressing my wish that it would operate in that fashion.
Ken, if I may just comment on that, I understand your frustration. The permitting process is so involved and so, I won't say complicated, but it's just, we're doing a simple maintenance project for the lagoon, and we're coming into the third year of permitting. Yeah. Just sludging through that process. So we kind of have to start the ball rolling, or if we wait until we have all the funding set or secured, we're like 5 years out, and then we have to wait until the permitting's done at that point, another 4 or 5 years. So, yeah, unfortunately, it is kind of a ready, shoot, aim.
Well, I guess the, part of my sensitivity is the fact that, we have a significant reserve that we've built up on the backs of our tenants over the years, and we're spending it like I was going to say drunken sailor, but that's not a very good thing to say here. But it's making me very uneasy that we're hoping, we've got our fingers crossed that all these funds are magically going to appear and so forth, but we've got little or no assurance that we're going to get through the approval process unscathed without, significant mitigations or some, the wild card things. And or, the grant funding is not going to be available to us and so forth. So without some assurance that, the city says, okay, this is a valuable asset to our community, and somehow or another, we're going to figure out how to fund this. With that kind of assurance, I would rest easier, but I realize that's probably not going to happen. And I understand the realities of it, but that doesn't calm my nerves at all. Anyway, just a comment, editorial comment.
I have a question, Brian. You mentioned something about the lagoon dredging. Does that have anything to do with the dock dredging, the city dock dredging that I've heard people talk about for some time?
Are you talking about the lagoon dock?
No, not the lagoon dock. I've heard people talk just recently about the fact that the Flintstone Park, the city dock, that there was a proposal somewhere, I'm not sure exactly where, that piggybacked onto the marina dredging, that they would dredge the city dock just so it was open all the time for tenders and people who were anchored out. Is that in any way connected to the lagoon
No,
dredge?
it's not, and that's not currently in the works. Right now, the priority focus is the marina dredging. And
Well, but it also makes sense, though, if one of the largest parts of the expense of dredging is the mobilization, and if they're mobilized, how much more could it be to dredge that area along City Dock so it was open all the time? And Barbara, you're smiling when I say that. But, I've been in this, we've lived in Oak Harbor for 44 years, and we've always said that what the city needs is a way to get to the Dock Street dock at all tide levels. So people could bring their tenders, anchor out, come into the town, especially now if there's a hotel down there. I don't want to go into this, but there's, what a perfect time to dredge another 100,000 cubic yards or whatever it would be to be on either side of the Dock Street dredge that's already there.
Yeah, and that's kind of a whole separate complicated
Sure.
project. We're
Yeah.
actually getting that dock evaluated right now. We know the pilings are retaining quite a bit of water. When drilled into it, it just kept pouring out.
Yeah.
So we're,
That's the whole thing,
Yeah.
is the dredge the dock, but
Yeah.
it's the middle of downtown.
but I agree, it would be a great, useful asset and amenity if we were able to have people, bring their dinghies or whatever over, just straight over to the dock at any hour, right? Yeah.
Is it true to any extent that starting or completing the permitting process sets us up for getting grants? Like, does that put us in a better position? Or is it just the first step that everyone is doing to get these grants?
It doesn't hurt, I'll put it that way. I don't think that it necessarily makes the grant process much stronger, but it shows that you're closer to construction. Most of these grants have funding timeframes a year out, 2 years out. So it's important that when we do get a grant, that we apply for a grant, that they do see that we're not just thinking about this, we're actually working on this and we're ready to go. We're not quite shovel ready, we're a little bit a ways from that, but we're farther ahead than a lot of people who are applying for grants. So it's helpful, I would say, extremely helpful.
And then what would be the alternative if we didn't apply for permits right now? If we didn't spend that money and we just started applying for grants, how would that set us back? How would that affect the marina over time if we didn't just go for it?
I think that we would end up with something like what we're facing now. Say it took us another 2-3 years to raise the funds. It would take an additional 2 to 3 years to get those permits. So now we're looking at 4 to 6 years. That's 4 to 6 years of silting. And we have to remember that as we look at our marina, back in 2010, 2011, only about half of it was dredged. So that's why this project is so expensive, because we're literally dredging the marina 1.5 times. And the farther we push that out, the more expensive this project's going to be.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Is there anything else on this memo about the financial update that you wanted to cover?
No, sir, I think you guys covered it fine.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, not hearing any takers, so. How about the update on the electrical situation?
On March 16th, we suffered a pretty catastrophic failure of 2 of our 480-volt feeder lines. These lines feed EF and G docks. We were able to get that secured, make it a safe situation, but unfortunately, that did cut the power off to EF and G docks, including the lighting, the Wi-Fi, the nav, channel markers, all of that stuff. Since that time, we invited Elite Electrical to come out and take a look at it, and one other electrical company. We settled on Elite. They have given us a proposal which is in your packet. The estimated repair cost is $44,819. If they have to work on the weekends or the evening, they realize how important this is to us, so they're willing to go the extra mile, then it could be increased by an additional $5,700. The plan is that Elite's going to come in, they're going to bring in 2 big spools of cable, approximately 410 feet of cable to be exact. They're going to run it along the dock, on the north side of the dock along the power pedestals. Then they'll connect the cables to the junction box right by Luna on the bull rail there. They'll remove the other junction box. On the east side, the cable closest to the harbor master office will be connected to the white transformer box as you come down the gangway on your left-hand side. So it'll be one continuous run. In your packet, you'll see diagrams in there of what it currently looks like due to other failures. It looks like a daisy chain from junction box to junction box. Those junction boxes will be removed, those ones that stick up along the north side of the main walkway. So the cable will be on the deck. We are currently in the process of finalizing plans to build some chases over that. This is big miners cable, but we don't want it to be a trip hazard, and it doesn't necessarily have to go in conduit. We've decided that we don't want it on the edge of the dock hanging in the water for various reasons, that if it were to ever fail again, we can't see to fix it. We know the vicinity where it's broken, but we don't know exactly where it's broken. By putting it on the dock, we'll have access to it at all times. It also will take off some of the weight on the outside of those whalers, which need to be replaced as well. In your packet, you'll see a mock-up that Duncan built showing what the chase is going to look like, and that'll run from approximately midships of Joshua, the green and white sailboat at the bottom of the gangway, all the way to that bull rail where Luna is. We're going to paint them yellow. They'll have non-skid paint on them. They're going to have black and white black cross hatches on them. That's it right there. Thank you, Mikhail. This is just a mock-up. We wanted to prove to see if it would work. So we expect the lumber for all of them to show up on Wednesday, and we're going to go into full-fledged production of those things, all hands on deck. Everybody's going to be out there making them. The idea is that once the cable is laid, we'll drop these right over them, secure them, and they'll energize the cable right there.
Chris, how's the cable going to go across to the other side, to the white junction boxes?
Actually, there is a fiberglass grate between the old dock and the new dock. It'll cut in there, and then there's chases underneath that go through the dock to the white box. So as we work on this, we are finalizing the contracts now with Elite. And once they get the contracts, the estimated time for this cable is not something that you go to the store and buy. It's not even something that their suppliers carry. They're going to have to go to the manufacturer. So it's probably 2 to 3 weeks out for that cable. Once the cable comes in and the installation happens, that should go relatively fast.
So, Chris, what are the affected voters doing now for power?
So we prioritized the liveaboards, and we moved all of them that wanted to move, and that was the bulk of them that were in the affected areas, into other docks within the marina. That ate up all of our free space. Most of those boats out there on FDOC are large boats, you know, in the 40-foot range. Some of the boats in the 32-foot category on EDOC, we're actually moving into DDOC as they request it. We've made it known there is space available. They're sticking out a little ways, but we feel confident that we're going to have this fixed before it gets busy. But really, truly, the only slips that we have available with power left are 28-foot slips.
Do we know how many of those boats have onboard generators?
We do not know how many of those boats have onboard generators, but I think the bulk of them do out there on FDOC. And I know that there's been a lot of people coming down and starting their boats and running them. You know, the issue is, you know, if the batteries died, all bilge pumps run off of batteries. And that's the thing that bothers me, and it bothers
The starters run
owners.
off of batteries, too.
They do indeed. We have a big jump box, so, and we've used that a few times to get people going. So,
Did anybody leave and go anywhere else?
not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
no. No. So, you know, I must say that our tenants have been absolutely amazing through this. They have been there with us. We've tried to update them, trying to keep them as updated as we can. But for the most part, they have been amazing and totally understanding of this is beyond the scope of what we can do at our level. So, you know, I really thank them for that.
Chris, you mentioned that this construction was going to be, the construction of the channel or whatever it is going to be taking place right away so that it's done when the cable is laid? Is that what you're saying?
That's the plan. We have to build approximately 50 of these boxes. So the lumber arrives on Wednesday. So we'll get it sorted out, and hopefully on Wednesday we'll start ripping plywood down to dimensional sizes and cutting the 4x4s as well.
So
It'll
each
take us
section is going to be how long?
8 feet, the width, the length of a sheet of plywood. But we have to build jogs and stuff around the power pedestals because this will cross over right underneath where the meters are on those. So they'll be a little bit different. So each one of those will be slightly different, but they'll be 400 feet times 8, 40 of these plus the smaller ones. It's going to be about 50 of them when all said and done.
Just tangentially through this process, it occurred to me that we needed to go to a council workshop for them to bless the fact that this is an emergency. And if you have a boat down there, there is no question that it was an emergency. Is there a well, you and I have talked a little bit about this, but is there a mechanism whereby I don't know, one of you two gentlemen up there can say, hey, this is an emergency, and authorize, you know, hiring contractors to do the work and that sort of thing, without going to city council? And not that that's impossible. Certainly it's possible, and council acted on it at their last workshop, which I thought the workshops were non-decisional. But, you know, we'll take what we can get.
So a couple of things there. I can tell you that in prior years, when we've had emergencies to the breakwater, when the breakwater walls broken and stuff, the mayor at the time deemed that an emergency and authorized to move us forward. We always have to go to council. We'll always go to council, but it's a matter of when do we go to council. If the mayor tells us to move forward with the repair, we can start to do that and then go with council and brief them otherwise. In this case, the workshop was so close to when this happened, and we were getting estimates still, that it kind of made sense to take this route. Had it been something catastrophic, like a broken dock or something different than this, where we were still getting estimates and stuff. It may have happened differently, but this is the way it went. As far as the way workshops go, workshops are generally conversational time for staff and the council. But having said that, if there is an item such as this that is of huge importance, it can have an action item on it. They just have to publicize it that way. So we were thankful that Michaela and her staff did do that. So it worked out timing perfectly.
So it's the public notification part of it that is the real plus?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Barbara, do you have any comments or questions about that process?
Well, actually, that's what I thought. And I guess maybe that's something to discuss with city administrator or for the mayor, because I just didn't think this should wait this long. What constitutes an emergency, what doesn't, what can wait. Maybe it's something we should relook at and think about how we do this to kind of expedite stuff like this, because it puts a burden on everybody. And so it's just something I've been thinking about too.
I think that I could add real quick that this process didn't slow this particular thing down, because we were still working behind the scenes on stuff.
And we're very thankful about that.
Yeah, yeah.
But, worst case scenario, it could be a problem. It could be a hurdle. No, we missed it this time.
Yeah, and I have no doubt at all, if there was an emergency that required council approval, by law, we would just have the mayor call a special work session, we notified it, we'd get it done. We're never going to have the bureaucracy be a barrier to getting something done that has to get done.
I'm remembering back to a couple administrations ago, the mayor's individual authority to approve contracts was changed. And so I was thinking, well, maybe we just need to change it again, add something to it so that the mayor, who we all assume is a responsible person, can make those types of determinations. So it's just something to think about. I realize we're not going to resolve that at this moment, but I just think we need to be light on our feet when it gets to the point of addressing emergencies. Because this one was, maybe we dodged the bullet. Maybe not. We'll find out.
We certainly did, because no one was hurt. So that's
Yeah.
the big thing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll also just add, Ken, to that real quick, that
Sure.
with the Marina turning 50 this year, and we're seeing more and more of these unexpected repairs, Chris and his staff are definitely becoming lighter and lighter on their feet, having to address these in a very timely manner. We've had everything from electrical failures to line breaks, all kinds of things. And unfortunately, that's just going to increase until we get the redevelopment done. So your point is definitely well taken, and something that we'll continue to look at and make sure that we're able to respond to all these in a very timely manner. As we do the budgeting session this year, I think it's something that we pretty much have to plan for, that we're going to have unexpected costs, unexpected repairs that need to happen, and so position ourselves in the best way to respond to those immediately, and kind of have some of that stuff, maybe even a pre-approved line for unplanned repair projects or something like that.
Question mark.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's some creative way to address that issue and get it resolved ahead of time, so that we're not trying to, paint a moving bus, that kind of thing. No pun intended. Okay, that's the, yeah, any other commission comments? Okay. General Marina update. So you're back on the
Yes.
clock again.
So General Marina update, super exciting news. We have hired all of our summer help, and all of them have officially started. We have Dick Smith, who's been with us. This is his 6th year. Les Cummings has returned to us. This will also be his 6th year with a 5-year interval in between that. And then the newest one that just started today, Tiana Jackson, and you guys will really enjoy her. Super bubbly personality, and she'll run her. She's much like Elise, so she's younger, and we're excited to have her on staff, and today was her first day. Some of the things that we're working on around the marina, and all of this work will stop once we get the materials and start building these chases. We started pressure washing. Les actually started and is down from the gangway down by Luna now, so that's good. Our plan is to pressure wash the whole marina eventually, coupled with doing some whaler repairs, minor electrical repairs, not the big one, things like that that we normally do. One of the big challenges, Brian kind of alluded to that, is we had scheduled to move the Flintstone Park dock, as we generally do this time of year. Before Holland Happening, we had scheduled it for Wednesday, I believe. We're not going to be able to do that because we did find some pile damage there, pile rot. We have contacted Moffett Nichols. They're going to be sending an engineer out to take a look at that and see what we have on our hands. Now, truthfully, that dock sits in the mud for the bulk of the time, and it wouldn't be such a horrible thing if we couldn't put it back. The challenge is that the hydroplanes rely on it heavily, and this year we are having the West Coast regional races here, so we have to find a plan to make something happen, be if we're even just anchoring that dock out there for the time being for those races, but we'll figure something out. So you may see some information on that coming your way in the near future as well.
Okay, when will we know what has to be done there?
I am hoping to have the engineer out, the marine engineer out this week, but it could carry over into next week. That's one of the things that came towards the end of last week. And I was talking to our Moffett Nichols dredge project manager on that, and we hadn't narrowed down a date yet. So hopefully soon.
I'm assuming that's being billed to the city?
We haven't even had discussions on that yet. Brian was on vacation last year or last week, and I haven't had any discussions, but I am going to discuss that for
Chris,
sure.
don't you think that you could get a grant to replace that dock? I think docks are available. You know, I think they're happy to take those old docks and give you nice graded docks so the fish can swim underneath them and everything. Wouldn't that be, spending good money after bad trying to fix that thing?
One of the challenges with getting an RCO grant or something like that to replace that dock, we looked into it a few years ago, is a dredging issue. RCO only dredge up to 10% of the cost of the entire project. As we look at that, we know that that's going to be millions and millions of dollars to dredge. So do we generate millions and millions of dollars off of the boats that go there in the summertime? Could we dredge away? I mean, would it have such a boon to the downtown economy? Does it have that boon right now even? So it is something that we've looked at and we've always hoped to do, but it's not likely something that we're going to get RCO money for to do in the immediate future. They're not going to give us a new dock knowing that, it's only in place half a year because of the storm surge through there, and it sits in the mud 50% of the time as well. So that'd be a tough ask. Going
Any
on
other-
with the update.
Go ahead.
Really, we're excited about what's happening at the marina, with the exception of the electrical issue. The phones are ringing. We're starting to book a lot of reservations. There's been a slight uptick in the fuel dock. One of the things that's killing us, I was just explaining this to my wife last night, is the weather. This time last year, we had fairly nice weather. The marina was active. There were lots of people coming and going. This year so far, all we've seen are gray clouds, wind, and drizzly conditions. That affects the boating, as you know. So once the sun comes out, I anticipate that the doors are going to swing wide open and we're going to be very busy all of a sudden. That's about it for the update.
Okay. One of the things that, Byron Scooby apologized that he wasn't able to attend this meeting, but he sent an email that asked some pretty direct questions that I think are very valid. One of them had to do with the grant that was available through the county for the purchase of the boatyard, and how during the course of the doing due diligence, doing our inspections, the environmental stuff, the structural stuff on the buildings, and so on and so forth, that project kind of went sideways. And, but we're ending up, we, meaning the marina tenants, are ending up paying for that due diligence. Is that still the case?
That is still the case right now. It's not clear to me that the city has met with the county to discuss that yet. Last I heard, they had not, but they were hoping to soon. So we don't know where that's going to go. I will say that, that is why we do the due diligence, is to find these things. Had we not done that due diligence, we could have ended up with something that would have cost the marine attendants far more than what it did cost them. And it's unfortunate the way things worked out, because we had started this project and we had executive sessions with the Marine Advisory Committee. We had many of them to keep you updated. About halfway through that, we found out that those executive sessions were not legal, that we could no longer have those having to do with not being a city council and decision-making and that sort of thing. So it was extremely hard, and something we struggled with, to keep the Marine Advisory Commission up to date. And how could we do that in this setting when it could affect the sale of the property, the purchase price, Because at that time, up until a few weeks ago, we were still moving forward with this, or a month ago now, I guess it is. So it's unfortunate the way that worked out, and it wasn't something we chose to do, not to keep you updated. It was something that we didn't know how we could update you. We couldn't send out a mass email. We couldn't talk to you all at once about this. We tried to be open and candid about everything at the marina we can possibly be, but this was one of the things where we just couldn't get there. So it was a struggle to keep you updated.
Not exactly an example of democracy in action, right?
No, it's not, but it kept us out of...
I understand, yeah.
Kept us out of trouble in a lot of ways.
Well, Chris, can we talk about it now? I mean, I'm personally not aware of why that. I've heard rumors that there was a bad building, or a building that, might cost the city a lot of money if they want to use it. Can we talk about why the decision was made to not move forward, or are we still in the dark?
I'm not sure if we can or not at this point.
I got you.
Maybe we can put that on the next agenda. I can do something as an agenda item or something.
So-
But just to be safe, I'd rather not go in that direction.
Was I hearing that we're no longer allowed to have executive sessions?
That is correct. This commissions, committees, boards cannot have executive sessions.
Well, Chris, let me ask you another question. Is this an absolute dead issue? Has it been decided that we are going to abandon this purchase?
Yes, that is true.
Is it an irrevocable decision? Is there a reason? I mean, because all the reasons why we recommended that the purchase take place are still there. And if there's something in the way of that we are not privy to, we probably ought to be privy to that.
Yeah, and we're getting into that area that I don't really want to go at this meeting.
Okay, I got you.
At
I
this
think it's
point, the
probably-
purchase and sale agreement has expired, so we would have to renegotiate everything. So, no, we're not moving forward with it.
I think it's probably fair to say that as we did our due diligence and looked carefully at the assets that are there that we were looking to acquire, we ran up against some insurmountable problems. Insurmountable. Value problems, I guess. I'm speculating right now, so you don't need to respond to that or anything. But I would guess that coming to, any transaction, you got to have a willing buyer and a willing seller, a willing and informed buyer and seller. And you're absolutely right. Due diligence is something that is absolutely done anywhere you go to do transactions and so forth. So I think part of the problem that I have is that part of the, was it a state commerce grant that we shared in? It was that the
was
funding source from,
It was a
From the
county
county?
grant. It was a county grant.
yeah,
for
but
economic
didn't the
development.
money come from the state
Yeah.
and economic development? Anyway, I can't imagine that they're doing projects without due diligence. I mean, that's just stop or I'll shoot, it's
Yeah,
madness, but
understood.
anyway.
So now, if we're not going to move forward, and the city is not going to acquire the boatyard, or a way to move boats in and out of the water, the need still exists. That, the marina is, I mean, let's say, for example, the trailer that they currently use just dies. We're going to have a marina with no way to get boats out of the water. I know we have big pumps and we can do water boats for periods of time, but if somebody's got a real issue and has to get out of the water, that's not going to be available at the Oak Harbor Marina. Is it wise that the marina acquires some way to get boats in and out of the water?
That had a lot to do with us purchasing Mariners Haven. But yeah, it's not a bad idea. We have had situations in the past where we haven't been able to use their services, and we've put the boat taking on water at the launch ramp or something like that. So, yeah.
But let's take it a step further. Is this something that we want to initiate, either make a recommendation as a commission to the marina and ultimately the city, that we find a way, that the marina actually has a way to get boats in and out of the water? Because we've talked about this in the past, that trailer that is being used, it's, one failure away from being barbecue grills, so.
I think the next step, if that's something the Marine Advisory Commission would choose to care to do, that would be okay. That would be a good thing. I think about the costs associated with that and the use of that. If we had space where we could do and haul out boats, that would make 100% success, and I'd be all over that. In the case of this, we'd be purchasing a trailer and a puller, truck, tractor, whatever it may be, that would largely sit unused for 350 days out of the year, and we're looking at quite an expense. The trailer that we were looking at for Mariners Haven was a Conolift sling hoist trailer. It was uniquely designed and would work perfectly at our marina with the shallow boat ramp. The cost of that was roughly $225,000, and then we would have to purchase something to pull it with, be it a tractor or old semi or whatever, and the cost of that probably would be in the $8,000-$10,000 range, because it wouldn't have to be beautiful. It serves just one purpose and it would never go on the road. So we're conceivably looking at a $230,000, $240,000 investment for something that we're not going to use except in the case of emergencies. And we do have a few good sinkings every year. We've been lucky lately that they've been the smaller boats. So, I don't know that it pays off for itself versus moving a boat of your size to the launch ramp and then getting the insurance company involved and having them haul it out and that sort of thing.
I guess the point, though, is that there is no way to haul it out. There may not be any way to haul it out,
There may not be.
other than, you and I we talked about what happens if that thing dies while my boat is in his yard.
It nearly did.
Yeah, well, it did. But what is my option? Is it to go to Anacortes and hire someone to bring their trailering device into a boat yard to get my boat out of the yard and back in the water? It's one of the reasons why, I think most people have boat yards in areas where there is a way to launch and recover boats. And we're faced with the situation, could be tomorrow, that capability goes away in Oak Harbor.
Definitely.
And,
I would suggest that be a topic for the next meeting's agenda.
We can certainly add that.
And part of the justification for even considering purchasing the yard was for just that reason. So we would have trained staff available to do the launches and retrievals, and we would have storage room for the boats
That's correct.
when they come out of the water. That's not the only open space, of course, that's adjacent to our property, and there's, the Navy has a beautiful chain link fence built across in front of a very large serviceable area where you could easily store boats and so forth. So that's kind of my plan B, is to look really hard at that and encourage the city to go after whatever level of authority we have to acquire some of that disused property so that we can store boats there, and that would justify then the expenditure for some sort of system that we could rely on for retrieval and launch. So let's add it to the next agenda.
Can do that.
Okay. Let's see. Chris, did you have anything else for the good of the commission?
No, again, I'd just like to welcome our new commission members. Look forward to working with you guys. Just let you know, my door is, actually, I have no door on my office, so it's always open and available to you to have one-on-one discussions. Just a reminder, as we send things out email, as I meet with you guys, it can't constitute a meeting, so never reply to all, and meet with me one-on-one so we can have these discussions versus in groups. Other than that, I'm here to help you guys get accustomed to the committee and looking forward to commission and looking forward to working with you all.
And we do appreciate your candor and the skill of your people in getting a difficult job done, many difficult jobs on a routine basis. And also would like to second the welcome to Joshua and Evan and Louie. There's kind of a very steep learning curve in this job, as I think you're beginning to understand, and Barbara could address that too. It's just a matter of, right now we have significant projects underway that, if we had supremely deep pockets, it would be no problem, but that isn't the case. So we will continue to press on the financial aspects of what we're doing and expect routine updates on how we're doing financially, because that, when it comes right down to it, no matter what happens, we've got an aging marina that is probably 20 years or so past its pull date, and we're band-aiding all of this stuff and spending a tremendous amount of money band-aiding this old rickety facility together. And kudos to you, Chris, and your staff for doing that, for exercising whatever band-aids you need to. And that's, the fact that we ask the tough questions isn't, we're not casting aspersions on you or Brian or anything. It's just a matter of, it's that important to this community and to the members of this commission that we look down the road a little bit, and we don't just look, we don't get myopic and start wishing that things were different, because that's not going to help us. Anyway, that's my summation. Any other questions on the part of the commission? I've lost my place in this pile of paper, so we've talked about agenda items, one being this, solving some sort of solution to this lift issue. Does anybody have any other comments or suggestions about future topics for discussion? Yeah.
I'd just like to second what Gabe said earlier. The year over year chart would be really helpful, and it helps take out some seasonality as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're kind of looking at just a big spreadsheet of what a forensic accountant might want to see.
Yeah. Sure.
Good point. Anybody else? Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for,
May the 13th.
thank you, May the 13th.
And I should tell you, I will be on Salt Spring Island on May the 13th, so I will probably not be able to be here.
What, you'll be out enjoying your
I
boat?
will be enjoying my boat.
What heresy? You know. Where's your priorities, man?
Chris, I'll send you a note.
And I do appreciate Byron sending an email outlining some of his issues and concerns and so forth. Just one other little nitpick thing. Do we have, it's not a nit, it's, do we routinely thank, Ryan, who used to be a member of this group, do we send out thank yous, thank you for your participation or your help or something? I would highly recommend that we do that.
I actually meet with them and thank them face to face. I see Ryan every day, obviously, as a liverboard.
Okay.
But
Okay.
others I've met with and kind of had just a decompression session, on what's happening and see how they thought meetings were going and stuff like that. So I take it a little farther than just a thank you note.
Chris, are there going to be any concrete plans for the docks over the summer?
As soon as the sun comes out and we get done with these chases, we need sunshine to do the concrete. So that's what we've been waiting on.
Yeah.
Danny is our concrete guy, and he's been chomping at the bit, but we just haven't been able to do it.
So we're talking about overlayment and repair of the fractured concrete and that sort of thing. So,
Yep.
okay. So those plans are in the works, subject to the raceways getting completed and all that.
Yeah,
sort of-
the electrical issues trumping everything. If the sun were to come out now, we'd still be working on the chases, so we need to get those done. That's priority number one.
What's the status of the metal hoops and so forth, or the hoops?
Pile
not
hoops,
necessarily
we've
metal.
replaced a whole bunch of them. I don't know the exact number. I think we just have a few more docks to do, smaller docks, and then we'll be done with that, but it's going well.
Okay.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? All right. Okay, and we have a second. And all those in favor, say aye. Aye.